Alright guys, we camera talking today. Okay, so DSLR versus mirrorless in 2025. Does it still matter? Well, what is it that you want to do? That might be one of the important questions to ask yourself. So, do you want to do photos or do you want to do video? And do you want to do it seriously-ish? Seriously, sorta. Kinda, sorta, maybe. Kinda serious, maybe more serious than just kinda, sorta. Anyway, moving on. If you want to go for video, depending on the features that you want, DSLR cameras tend to be older, on average, compared to mirrorless cameras. It might not always be the case, but on average, DSLRs are probably going to be older than a mirrorless camera you're going to see on the market. Again, not always the case. But anyway, especially the modern mirrorless cameras are probably going to have better video specs on average, even if it's a camera that might be at a lower price point nowadays than the DSLR when it came out. So for example, you could get a 5D Mark II, right? Like this one here. And you could shoot video on that, right? But if you don't have Magic Lantern installed on that, which, you know, if you do that at your own risk, because I've heard that it could, like, potentially cause issues. But anyway, unless you're doing something like that, kind of hacking your camera or whatever, it's raining, by the way, if you could hear that. Anyway, you could film on the 5D Mark II, but the video quality, compared to if you got like a modern Canon mirrorless camera, you're probably going to get a lot more quality and probably some better just ease of use out of a modern Canon mirrorless camera, or just modern mirrorless camera, right? But Canon, if we're keeping with Canon, there's modern Canon options. Anyway, so doesn't matter, it depends on what you want to do. If you just want to do like good photos, again, you could get yourself like a Canon 5D Mark II, some of the other older Canon DSLRs, maybe an older Sony DSLR, whatever DSLR, Nikon, you know, all these brands might have different pros and cons, and depending on which model you pick. But if you want to do like just good photos on a budget, older DSLR. If you want to do video on a budget, you could do older DSLR, but keep in mind, when you go with these older cameras, not necessarily the same level of quality, in the sense that the video might be a little bit limited in its ability when compared to the modern stuff in some of the more modern mirrorless cameras. So just keep that in mind. If you just want to start, consider getting like an older mirrorless camera. Keep in mind that depending on the, or not an older mirrorless, an older DSLR, well, you could get an older mirrorless camera too, but anyway, older DSLR, like, I haven't gotten a Canon 70D, but if you wanted to get one of those, so I can't guarantee its quality or anything like that, I can't really speak to it from experience, but anyway, is something that I think it was Canon's first camera to have dual pixel autofocus, or their first DSLR to have dual pixel autofocus. So it's got that autofocus, probably an older version of it, but it's got that in there. I assume it's probably pretty good. And then you get like a lens that's kind of like cheap-ish, but maybe not too cheap, just to try to, you know, just get like a reasonable lens, and then you kind of just got that setup, right? And you could do some video stuff. Again, depending on whether you want to do Magic Lantern hack on it at your own risk, right? That's on you. But anyway, like, you could do that if you're just wanting to get into video. And maybe you could get some stuff that still looks pretty good, depending on how much you know what you're doing, and even with your lighting and stuff like that. But if you want to just do photos, there's a bit more of an open variety in terms of the more cost-effective options. If you don't have a budget, you know, there's modern options that are probably going to just be lighter, have higher quality if you care about megapixels, stuff like that, just more ease of use, things like that. So yeah, that's worth considering. Doesn't matter, depends on what you're doing. If you want to learn more about cameras, or if you have any questions, I got my Skool link in the description. You could sign up with a 7-day free trial, I believe, right now. And so feel free, if you have any questions, hop in the Skool community, ask the question. I'm going to try to answer it. And thank you for joining Camera Talk.